song. You flew to me and I've loved every minute of it. Well, I never thought that we'd both keep holding on for so long. Come rest your head next to me on this bed. Watch the hours we spent float away in the wind. Breathe in the air tonight, let down your head. It's alright, everything's fine, 'cause your body's on mine. You got me saying, oh wow, when you love me all night long now, and you call it on back for more. How do you love me like that? How do you love me like that? Blah blah blah, talking nonsense in my car. Couple of drinks at the bar, content when I'm where you are. And I'm like, ooh la la la, laying out under the stars. Girl, you taste so sweet with your hair on me. You got me saying, oh wow, when you love me all night long now, and you call it on back for more. How do you love me like that? Are we ever gonna slow down? 'Cause it's 4 in the morning now, and you call it on back for more. How do you love me like that? How do you love me like that? Feels so oh wow, when you love me all night long now, and you call it on back for more. How do you love me like that? Are we ever gonna slow down? 'Cause it's 4 in the morning now, and you call it on back for more. How do you love me like that? How do you love me like that? How do you love me like that? How do you love me like
All right, guys, welcome back. Welcome back. I hope that I hope you're feeling extra horny after that ending there. Bit of brass trumpet to get you going. I know that does. That gets me right up in that zone to be pumped for something awesome. I hope it does. I hope you get the exact same feeling that I get, guys, because you can never get enough horn section in you. I love blowing my own trumpet, but I feel like today we need to blow somebody else's trumpet, because that song was called Like That by the absolutely phenomenal talent that is Joe Mungovan. You will not believe how long I've been trying to get that pronunciation right. I do apologize. I believe I've been mispronouncing him wrong. When we previously played one of his songs back in February this year, you may remember we played Lemon and Lime, which was a phenomenal track as well. And would you believe both that song and the song we just played are on his phenomenal new record, which is out now, called Flower in the Weeds. Now, I believe Joe Mungovan is a flower in the weeds. It is the terrible field of mediocre music, but Joe's definitely not mediocre. He is definitely something special. And I tell you what, I'm so happy to have him right now on the phone to talk about the album that he just put out. So, Joe, welcome to Bar Talk. How you going?
Thank you. You got it right. You got the last name right. You nailed it.
Yeah, and I'm probably going to forget it before the end of the interview. So
It's all right.
why don't
I'll
we
answer to anything.
I'm just like a dog. No. But let's relish in how I got at least one thing correct for once. But
it's all about the small victories. Just celebrate them.
I do want to apologize for everybody else that thinks I'm referring to them as mediocre musicians. It was purely just for the purposes of, embellishing the introduction, getting you all hyped up for this interview, which I'm certainly hyped up now. I hope you are too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I need to take you on tour with me now and give you a mic before the show. After that performance.
I'll be like the TV guy. Be like, that's not clapping. All right, now you got to put more into it. Now
this is going to get interesting. It's going to be good.
Now, when Jimmy Fallon puts his hands up, what do? You go wild. So, yes, I feel like it's all about it's all about how you present yourself and how much you hype up your audience, I guess, as to how hyped up they're going to be, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for these parts, we've just been doing a few album preview shows, and we've been wearing the bright one-colored sporting tracksuits that I wore in the Like That video clip. So I feel like it's fitting to take someone to try and pump the crowd up a bit, make it a bit like a sport event or something.
That's it. And I want to say too, as a release, you have released the record now, A Flower in the Weeds. So I want to say congratulations as well. It's a wonderful album.
Thank you so much. I'm really glad you like it. With your hear so many artists say this, but it has really been a long time coming, and it feels so good to have this out. I've done a lot of EPs in the past, but to have my first full length record out, it's a dream come true. Really, it feels so good.
Yeah, stop trying to sound special, as you say. Every artist, it's always a long time coming. You can stop bragging now.
That's it. Yeah.
But I want to dwell on that fact because you. As you were saying just before where we chatted, and I haven't had the chance to view it, so now I'm really keen. But the song we just played, Like That, you were saying you just released a video, and I like how you're wearing the same getup as the music video, just to fuck with everyone. I like that.
Yeah, well, it's been interesting at these shows because these tracksuits they're ridiculously hot. And when you're playing under lights as well, I mean, I've just started playing with a band and I've just thrown these guys into the deep end. I'm like, this is what we're wearing for the shows. And we all come off stage just dripping more than usual, which, I mean, even when you wear normal clothes on stage, you still sweat a lot. But
yeah.
Just to let everyone know, we're working hard up there.
Even if you don't play hard, it looks like you're working hard when you just got the sweat coming down, beating down your faces.
Yeah.
It's
that's it.
Look, hey, it's part of the labor of love, as they say.
Yeah, definitely.
So, what's the deal with the tracksuits? So, does everyone have a different color, or you're all matching colors?
No, yeah, we're all different colors. In the film clip, I play all the different characters, but when we play live, now we've got the band, so each sort of character takes their own color, and we go from there.
I like that. Color is such a really good way of sort of portraying different emotions and different characters. I feel it's a tried and true method in cinematography of any kind, I guess, or of any different type of art, of many different types of arts. So I guess you're just following in that proud tradition.
I think so. Yeah, I feel like with this album, it's such a colorful album, and I've really tried to show that through all of the clips, and especially the art, the cover art, and the single art, and all the merch we've got going now. It's all feeling pretty bright, and it's good. I'm loving it. We're just coming into summer now in Australia, and I feel like I just can't wait to get out and play these shows now and bring the record into the live setting. Hopefully, we're looking to do that next year, and hopefully it can go ahead.
It really is a phenomenal color palette. There's so many different, like it's not just a couple of colors too. You've got your blues, your greens, just looking over the single art. You've got that pinks and purples and yellows. There is a lot going on, but it is a very consistent and very grounded color palette, even though there are a lot of different colors going on.
Yeah, for sure. I was super lucky to be able to work closely with a couple of different artists in different fields. So I worked with my mate Dom on all of the graphic design stuff and so that's the cover and the single art. And we kind of, from the get-go, we were really conscious to try and match up the colors we were using with the sounds that I was making and the way that the album kind of feels. And we were very conscious about what we were doing with that through the whole process. And I love his art. He's incredible. So I was super stoked to be able to work with him on that.
It really sounds like there was a lot of joint input going on there, a lot of collaboration in terms of the ideas that the artwork is supposed to represent, and obviously keeping it true to the meaning of the record, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And also working with the videographers and photographers, doing the different shots and different film clips as well. It all kind of ties in together, and it's the first time I've had that kind of whole conceptual idea around the album being a thing. So it's super exciting for me.
I was going to say, it sounds like, you've really sort of set out to make something that is both consistent and true to the story, which is good.
Yeah, and as I said, it's the first time I've done that, so it kind of happened naturally as well. It wasn't forced. When I was writing the music, it all just kind of fell out, and it just felt right. And I'm so keen for people to hear this album. And yeah. Well,
considering then that it sounds like you're always setting out to do something that was as concise as it is. Has it been about as much work as you've expected? You know, when you've talked to maybe other artists that have put out albums previously, or was it harder or even easier than you thought? What were your expectations in terms of the workload, and what ended up being the result?
Oh, that's a tricky question, because I don't think I ever kind of set out to write an album. I think it just kind of ended up kind of happening. And then it just kind of kept growing, I guess. And I never really had any expectation of how much work it was going to be. And, you know, I've been recording music and touring for the past probably 10 years now. So, I understand everything that goes into recording and everything around releases and touring and that. But I think obviously with your debut record, you really want to just try and make that a sort of pinpoint in your life. And I didn't want to put too much importance in it, but it just kind of ended up happening. And I think this is something that I'm really proud of, and I'll really remember for the rest of my life, the process of making this record. And I think I was kind of lucky in a way with sounds like an interesting thing to say, but with COVID happening, it definitely gave me the time and space to be able to make this record what it is. Whereas in the past, I was kind of always touring and always in different cities and different countries, and I've never quite had the time or the space to sit down and flesh out ideas to the degree of which I have in this album.
It is that. Just everything that's happened over the last year or the last couple of years, it has actually just thrown a spanner in the works in terms of what people's trajectory, or what the trajectory of people's, you know, music journey was. And some people, it has sort of reduced their productivity, but in other cases, it's sort of increased it. Or sort of changed it up. So it sounds like you in that latter camp, you know, you wouldn't have probably done something as ambitious as this if the world hadn't turned upside down, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think I would have had the time to be able to do it, and the space to be able to sit down and actually reflect on what had kind of been happening in my life. And I think it's more that kind of thing when you sort of come to terms with everything, when you slow down a little bit, which is definitely what I needed.
Was there always when you sort of started thinking about putting out your next release, when you first started forming it together, was it a case of maybe you thought of it being just the next EP, and then did it just accidentally turn into your debut album?
Yeah, well, I kind of had a few songs finished, and I released the first one, You and Me, and I had You and Me and Give Me Your Love finished at the same time, and I was like, these are feeling pretty good as singles. And I guess I didn't have the plan of making an album at that point. For the past probably 5 years, I've really wanted to make an album, but it just hasn't. The timing kind of hasn't worked out. But now, after releasing those two, I just kind of kept writing, and then I was like, "Oh, this works together as a full body." So I didn't have the full album when I first released the singles, but it kind of just it turned into that. It turned into that thing, and it just all worked together.
Yeah. Let's focus a bit more on actually now the process of making it, because you said you were quite interested in how it actually got put together when you look back on it. So, because I know you produced it pretty much yourself with obviously a lot of help from others, but what was it like then deciding to go and sort of take the leads on the production side of things for your own first record? Again, it kind of happened naturally. I've been working with my mate Tim for the past decade now, and I always kind of, the way we worked was I would kind of demo the songs, take it to him, and then we'd work on it together. And just gradually, after demoing music for so long and making music and doing that, obviously your skill set just kind of grows. And it got to a stage where it was like the production was pretty much done. On that side of things, a few things just kind of needed to be re-recorded with different microphones and that sort of stuff, and and we went up and used a studio, because I was living out in the bush in Kangaroo Valley, recording it out there by myself, and it was just nice to take it to someone else and have someone else say like, yeah man, like this is great, these songs are ready to go. And so we re-recorded some of the drums and that in studios up in Sydney, but most of it was kind of recorded down in Kangaroo Valley. Yeah. And I guess it kind of happened naturally as well, because I was living by myself down there. And I'd go weeks without seeing other humans because of the location of the house. And so I just had so much time to work on it and make it sound the way I wanted it to sound. But it wasn't a conscious choice to produce it by myself. But it just kind of ended up happening again. Tell us a bit about Kangaroo Valley, because it's not an area I'm familiar with. As I was saying before the interview, I'm not familiar with the area from the Kiama area, because I've never actually been there. But hopefully that will change at some point in the future. However, definitely. Distractions aside, side tangents aside, what's the appeal of working in that sort of remoter area? Because it sounds like it's not, out of town and it's sort of in the bush.
Yeah, it's I'd just been touring Europe back in 2019, and I had come back to Australia, and I'd been going to this house to do recording and writing down in Kangaroo Valley. But over the past couple of years, I'd say, on and off. Just when I kind of wasn't on tour, I'd go there for a few months or whatever to go and write. And when I went down there in 2019, it was right at the end of the year. I kind of planned to go down for a few months and write and just come up with some songs and see what happened. And then I was down there when the bushfires hit over Christmas and New Year's. So I had to evacuate and get out of there because it was getting hard to breathe where I was living, and the smoke was just getting so thick, and it is quite remote. I was living out there with no phone reception, and it was just a little bit too much of a risk for me. So I came I actually flew over to WA and played some shows over there over New Year's. And then when I flew back, I moved back down to the valley, and luckily the house that had the fire had missed the house that I was living in. And then straight after that, the valley flooded.
Right.
Which was hectic. And then a lot of the trees and because it was right next to a river, this house that I was living in, and a lot of the trees and that had been affected by the fire were now falling over because they were so full of water. And the trees actually fell on the power line. I lost power for about a week, and I was living by candlelight. So it was just kind of like all of these crazy natural disasters just happening one after the other. And then the power came back on, and then a little thing called COVID happened while I was living out there. I didn't actually know that it was happening at the time because I didn't have any reception. And I went down to the pub one day to meet up with some friends to have lunch, and I looked up at the telly in the pub, and they were showing those wide pans of the empty shopping, the shopping carts in the shopping centres with no toilet paper. And I was like, oh, what's going on here? And then they kind of informed me, and I was like, holy shit, this is hectic. And then and then I just basically lost all of my work. Yeah. And I was like, well, fuck it, I'm just going to stay out in the valley. And so I just lived there for about a year and a half, and I just made the album. And it was I wasn't really affected by COVID too much at all because I wasn't surrounded by people. I was just out there with the cows and the kangaroos and all the wildlife, and so that's kind of how it came together.
I was going to say, what apocalypse? What apocalypse?
Yeah. Yeah, I had that stocked up on the baked beans.
You must
all the tin food.
You must have felt like it's like your own I Am Legend story. You know, it's like the last man on earth. Must feel like sometimes.
Yeah, it did feel like that, but it was so grounding for me, and it was so nice to have that space to be able to, I could record, play drums at 3 o'clock in the morning. I could do whatever I wanted out there, and it was so nice to just be able to relax and not worry about being somewhere and just wake up each morning and just focus on making music instead of traveling, which I do love, but I just had never had that kind of time.
Yeah, I was going to say it must be it must be really grounding just to go from having that very big touring lifestyle to have that long period where you just got to entertain yourself.
Yeah, I definitely dreamt of it for so long, and it kind of came true. And it wasn't because of something that I did; it was just because of COVID. So I was just in the right position to be able to go, all right, well, I'm going to live out here for the next however long it takes for this thing to pass over, and I'm just going to focus on what I love doing, which is making music. And the way that the music came together and the things that I was writing about was kind of not, I couldn't write about, I kind of forced myself to try and focus on all the positive things that were happening in my life.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to delve into dealing with too much of the anxiety and that side of things around losing work and the uncertainty of life, and everything that I've been working towards was kind of just ripped out from underneath me, and I didn't want to delve and I didn't want to entertain that idea too much because I was kind of concerned about where my brain could go if I did do that. So I was like, I'm just going to write about everything that's kind of positive in my life with and reflect back on all the really good times of touring and meeting people, and this particular album's about traveling around Europe and Australia and kind of falling in love with a girl, and I was reflecting on everything that good that had happened in my life up to that point, and I think it kind of comes through with the music.
Yeah. So what I was gonna say was with that then that you had that time to put it down, by yourself with the new songs, with the record, working with your good friend Tim. So was it largely a process of you putting a lot of the tracks together yourself at your house and then sort of sending them off to Tim, or working with him then to refine it, or was he sort of supervising it from the get-go?
No. So I was recording it all out. I had turned the house that I was living in into a home studio, and I recorded everything down there. And then when the songs had kind of all come together, I mean, as it wasn't like we didn't do it in a whole bunch. It was kind of in different groupings. But the songs are pretty much fleshed out well before I took them to him, and then he just has a really nice way of being able to, I guess, kind of put the cherry on top and make everything sound concise. And he's a wizard. I love working with him. So he kind of just cleans everything up. And we re-recorded some of the parts that we needed to re-record because down in the valley, there's quite a lot of external noises going on, whether it be wind or birds in the trees, and there's a lot of wildlife down where I was living. So it's wombats running under the house, that kind of thing.
Be a bit noisy at night when it's when all the animals are in heat. There's possums going out of the roof at 2 a.m.
That's it. And all the cicadas. Oh man, we had a really hard time. Tim actually came down to the valley for a weekend, and it was the one weekend when the cicadas were just going absolutely nuts. And we actually had to build a room out of blankets and pillows to try and get away from the sound.
Right.
Which isn't fun when you're in 28, 30 degree heat trying to sing songs and record music in a blanket room with not too much ventilation.
I was going to say the amount of sweating that you do on stage would be nothing compared to that, I'm sure.
Yeah. I've primed myself for it. It's all good.
because you can't have fans either, because it'd be too much low end.
Yeah, that's it.
You got to slave it out.
Record, those sounds did kind of make their way in there naturally, which I do like. In some of the songs, you can hear the fire crackling in the background or the birds chirping in the tree, and it's kind of cool like that. It's like that's where the album was kind of born, and but as far as Tim's involvement go, he really brings the songs to another level and brings them to life. And we mixed the album in the closet at his house. Had put the setup in there, and it was nice and quiet in there, so we could kind of hear everything properly. And it's been a pleasure working with him over the years. And I'm super super stoked to be able to call him a mate and also a close worker and co-worker. But as far as the songs go, they were all pretty much fleshed out by the time I took them to him, and we just kind of painted the house, so to speak.
Yeah. I was going to say this closet, so it must be a big closet.
What was that, sorry?
I was going to say that closet you mixed it in must have been a big closet for you both to fit in there. Yeah.
Well, the studio was in the closet, and then we were kind of sitting just outside the closet, so it was it's an interesting setup, but it worked well, and he's great at mixing, so we just kind of went through all the songs till we were happy with them, and and that's the reason why the album sounds the way it does.
Yeah, well, I mean, it certainly sounds good, so kudos.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, let's talk a bit more about the bit of the inspiration behind it, because you did briefly mention it before, and I buried it under my pile of 20 questions, which does tend to happen with these sorts of things. But I'm more than happy to chat about it now, because before the pandemic hit, you were very lucky enough, as you mentioned before, as well, to be playing a few shows in Europe, which, side note, must have been amazing.
Yeah, incredible. Yeah, that was my second European tour. I love it over there. I love playing. I love traveling, and so on this particular tour, kind of was playing Germany, France, Spain, and Italy. And I flew over to my first show was in Berlin, and I kind of landed in Berlin, and I've got a bunch of mates over there, so I like to spend a little bit of time there before the tour starts. But after the first show of that tour, I met a girl, and we ended up just staying up drinking all night at the venue, and I mentioned to her, I was like, I actually need a haircut. Like, I was like, oh well, like, you know, kind of just brought it up in conversation, and she was like, oh, I used to be a hairdresser. And then I was like, oh, okay, cool. And she was like, do you want me to give you a haircut? And she was and I was like, yeah, sure. And then next thing I knew, she was traveling around Europe with me, and she came on a lot of the remaining dates of that tour. And then I had to fly back to Australia at the end of 19 to play some shows, and I kind of didn't know if I was going to see her again. And then she messaged me. Yeah, she definitely didn't message me. She gave me a call, and she said, I want to come and see you. I want to come over to Australia. So she booked a flight to Australia, and she actually landed in Sydney the day before they locked the borders, and they didn't let anyone else in.
Jeez.
And we spent a couple of weeks just traveling up and down the East Coast, and just, you know, swimming and drinking wine and camping and just enjoying life. And we were kind of out of reception for a lot of it. And when we came back into reception, we had so many missed calls and messages from everyone saying, like, what are you guys doing? Like, you know, this situation is getting quite serious. You need to read the newspaper or something. So we made a few calls and realized that we would actually have to turn around and get back to Sydney Airport and get her on a flight back to Germany before they closed those borders as well, so that she could be with her family. And it was just this kind of crazy couple of weeks. And we got her on a flight that was wild at the time. All the flights back to Europe, and everyone was scrambling to get on flights, and they were like $10,000 for flights just back to Berlin. And luckily we found one that we could get her on, and and that was the last time I actually saw her, and that's kind of what this album is about. You know, meeting her in Europe and traveling around and just really enjoying life together, and just how crazy trying to do the long distance relationship thing is, and also just, you know, trying to figure out everything around the pandemic. And that's kind of what I wrote all these songs about.
It's interesting that you bonded over all things a haircut, which I think it's not exactly the most not the first thing that come to mind. No. But nonetheless, it's very romantic. I like it, and it's just she just happened to be a hairdresser. You know, it's just
I also constantly look like I need a haircut. So.
Yeah, the mane needs a bit of trimming every now and again. Yeah,
that's it.
So, I mean, just on your tour around, your couple of tours around Europe, and now that you've seen a bit of that part of the world, is there a particular sort of area of Europe that you just like going back to? I don't know how many other times you've been to Europe, but you've had the couple of tours, you've had the opportunity to play there a few times. Is there a particular area that this has this sort of unique flair to it that you really kind of appreciate?
Yeah, I really like Berlin as a city. I'm not much of a city person, but I can do it for a couple of weeks. And I really like Berlin. I've got some good mates over there. It's a nice city. There's a lot of, like, culturally, there's a lot of things going on, and it's just a very accepting, artistic and creative community in my experience.
Yeah, so you like it particularly just because of its music scene and the creative community that's there.
Yeah, definitely. And just putting on shows there, it's always a fun night at the shows. And it's a hard question because it's just there's so many beautiful places. There's so many beautiful places.
Is there anywhere around the world that you haven't been yet, but you're really keen to play there?
Like everywhere.
Just everywhere.
One place in particular, I would really love to go to Iceland and put on some shows. I've seen some pretty crazy concerts put on there, so it would be nice to do that and go there and yeah, I don't know, just do something really different. I think that would be cool.
Have you talked to many people that have played there? Is that why that sort of pikes up your interest so much?
No, I've not talked to anyone that's played there, but I've just heard fantastic things, and some of the concerts that I've seen online, I'm just like, oh, that looks incredible.
Yeah. It's like not normally an area that people think of, you know.
No, not at all. But I mean, I think that's why it's cool, because it's a little bit different.
Yeah. No, that's not wrong. And of course, they have their very own little music scene up there too, which I'm sure is very, very tight as well.
Definitely. Yeah, I've got I love a lot of Icelandic music, like Sigur Rós and all those guys. So yeah, it'd be cool. It'd be very cool to go there and visit that.
Now, I see that coming into later on this month and moving into December, you're doing a cool little cafe tour, I see. Breakfast with Joe, you call it, which I think is very cute. You're going up and down the coast playing, I see, cafes to showcase the album, which I think is pretty cool. You want to tell us a bit about that?
Well, yeah, the idea was kind of born because I was like, I really wanted to tour this album, but then also kind of not having too much confidence in being able to tour around the country at the moment. And so I decided to push the album tour to next year, when we hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll have a little bit more certainty around what we're allowed to do, and capacity numbers, and obviously just everything to do with COVID. But I thought, I really want to get this album to people, and I want to bring the songs, and I want people to start enjoying live music again. And I was just trying to think about what the most simple way, but also like a kind of different tour that anything I've done before. And so I thought, let's do shows in the morning at cafes, and just set up and play to people while they're drinking their almond lattes and enjoying their smashed avo. And I think it's going to be good. We're just doing New South Wales for now because of the restrictions. So that'll start the week after the album, the week of the album. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say at the time you booked it, we really didn't know where we'd be. So
not at all. But I'm super excited to travel up and down the coast and go swimming and play these shows and bring the record and bring the record to people live, and just kind of introduce it to them in a bit of a different, more stripped back way, definitely, and then bring the full big album band shows next year.
Yeah. Is it much? Have you done many of these types of cafe gigs before, or is it sort of new territory for you? I've
done all kinds of different shows. I mean, I've been playing solo for last probably 10 years. So most of my shows have kind of been more intimate venues, like cafes and different things like that. I'm used to that kind of more stripped back and laid back atmosphere.
There's always it's an interesting crowd at these cafe gigs, because like a lot of time people may be just there to have their food and go, but then weirdly enough, I've seen before at cafe gigs. I've been to a few, you've played a few. As I'm sure you've experienced as well. There'll always be people that may not be necessarily music people, but they'll end up showing a lot of interest because they really appreciate what you're doing with the guitar, with your vocals, or just what you're doing with the songs, whether that be covers or your own. I don't know if you've ever found that definitely at these sorts of cafe gigs,
Yeah, for sure. And I think I also think more to that point is that at the moment people are, playing these last couple of shows, people are just really appreciative of hearing live music again.
Yeah.
So I don't think it really matters in what capacity that's brought to them. I think people are stinging for connection, and and I've got this album, and I just want to go out and play these songs and just bring some joy to people's summer, and hopefully we can get out of this lockdown and just get out the other side of all of this bullshit.
I was going to ask too, because as of recording last night, you played your first sort of main album preview, I guess you can call it, with your band. So how did that go, first of all, and what was it like then getting up there with the band now. I'm guessing after a little while, finally getting out and playing these album tracks.
It's been great, man. It's been so much fun. It's been very strange being at the pub with so many other people, but once you get over that kind of initial social anxiety, it's like, oh yeah, no, we're good here. This is this is what we used to do. I remember this, and it feels really good. It's I'm super excited to just keep touring the album and keep moving and playing live and just enjoying life. Really,
is it sort of? Well, what is it? Pretty easy to sort of translate the songs, playing them with bands versus playing them solo. Like, can you pretty much play all of the album through solo and with the band?
Yeah. Well, the way it kind of works with the recording of the album is like I played everything on the album besides the horn parts because I can't play trumpet or sax.
Yeah.
So it's been really fun giving those parts to the band and hearing their kind of own flavor on the parts that I wrote and the parts that I recorded, and then sending them the songs and seeing the way that they interpret. It's really fun to hear the guys that I'm playing with at the moment. Super good musos, and it's been really enjoyable doing that. But I can play it solo as well because most of the songs are just written on a guitar in the initial stages, so they do translate through both settings.
Yeah, so have you had to change much of the arrangements to suit the band as opposed to playing them live, or is it pretty much there's just the same a lot of the same structure there? It's just obviously there's a lot more embellishments you can do with more people playing.
Yeah, I think more with the band, it feels like that kind of does the song justice more because most of the songs are fleshed out band songs.
Yeah.
I think more with the stripping it back is more where I have to make the amendments because it's kind of like trying to feel my way through, these tracks with drums and bass and the synths and vocal parts and melodies and like big harmonies and trumpet and saxophone parts and just trying to kind of figure out how to make it work in a more stripped back way is a little bit harder than doing it with the band, because with the band the parts are already there.
Yeah well that's pretty pretty obvious. But if it works, that's it. I'm guessing then moving into next year, because obviously this is sort of, you got the shows coming up just by yourself, the few local-ish shows there with the band. Are there plans to sort of into next year do the interstate tour, visit a lot of different places with the band and take it on the road?
Yeah, that's it. We're stinging to get the national tour out there and come and visit all our friends around the country. So that's kind of in the works at the moment. Aiming for Feb next year. So we'll see you all then.
Must be exciting to finally get it back out on the road again after a little while. Like, solitude is great and all, but only for a certain amount of time. Yeah.
Look, I was going a little crazy living out in that cabin by myself.
Started talking to the cows.
Yeah. I started. I did put on a performance for the cows as well. You can see that one on my Instagram.
Are cows appreciative audience members?
Yeah, they definitely are. I mean, they. I think they liked it.
But it's good that you'll be back, sort of doing what you love, in essence, which is just getting out there and playing to the world. Yeah, man, I'm stinging for it. And is Love Interest going to be hearing any of these songs live at some point? She's going to get the album playthrough that she inspired. I'm not too sure about that. Oh, okay. Europe's seeming like it's a bit off the cards now for the time being, but hopefully in the future. Yeah. Okay. I won't prod that. I won't prod that stick any further. Or I won't cattle prod that cow any. So that sounds way bad. That sounds way worse than it is. But I was trying to use a livestock pun, but it never. Yeah. I guess I can't herd it into the right pen, if you know what I mean. Joe, it's been a lot of fun chatting. Thank you for
thanks so much for having me on the show, man.
Thank you for taking us through the making of the album. It's been quite a enlightening experience, to put it that way. And I certainly hope that we get to see you down in Melbourne soon, coming into the next new year. Be great to see these songs.
We'll definitely be down there soon, as soon as we can. We'll see you then.
Now we're going to play soon one of the non-single tracks that I particularly enjoyed off the record, which is called, if I bring up the list again, I've forgotten the name. It's called Lonely, which is, as I was saying, not one of the singles released as of yet. So it's a newie to everyone out there. Tell us a bit about this one, and because I really liked it, had a very nice bit of guitar work and bit of sax work as well, I noticed too. So it's a pretty cool track.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, when I originally wrote this song, I wrote the music to it first, and I thought it kind of sounded a bit like a toilet paper ad, like with a really cute puppy in it.
So it's definitely a Kleenex ad material.
Yeah. So Kleenex, if you're listening to this, no, it's the third track on the album, and it's just kind of a chilled song, just about making dinner and sitting by the fire and enjoying some red wine and just seeing where the night takes you.
It's a very sort of, revels in the simple things kind of record. Oh, sorry, kind of song. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I definitely think it stems through the whole record as well, that kind of concept of, just appreciating the small things.
It is, yeah. But this song in particular as well, in terms of just describing the beauty and just having a nice night in, which is certainly something I've had the experience of having quite a bit in the last year or so.
A little bit too much, maybe.
It's a little bit too much. Well, as I was saying to you before the interview, as of recording, and this time next week I'll be out partying finally with the restrictions easing and having double vaxxed. So I'm keen to get back out and doing the things that I love, So
perfect. We love to hear it. Sounds great.
But we are going to play the song now, as I was saying. So, Joe, thanks again. All the best for your cafe tour and your upcoming shows, and hopefully seeing you soon. Playing around.
Thanks so much for having me again, man.
Why don't you take us out, Joe? Do the goods. Tell us what we're about to listen to and who you are.
My name's Joe Mungovan. This song's called Lonely, and it's from my debut album, A Flare in the Weeds, which is out now.
Beautiful. Here it is, folks.
Table full of food, who's there? Come and let your head down. Come round, tell me what you're thinking about. Dancing in your bare feet, drinking till our lips meet. Hiding in the bed sheets, knew that I would find you there. We bring it back, wake in the morning. The sun is creeping through the curtain. Nowhere to be, but right here with you. I know that you don't wanna be lonely, so stay another night with me. Letting a load off, taking it easy, the way that it's supposed to be. We'll just pull back the sheets and we'll stay back to sleeping, sleeping, drifting to the weekend. I know that you don't wanna be lonely, and you won't be if you're with me.
AustralianMusiciansRadio.com